Hello, everyone. Welcome to another race in the Link to the Past 2019 Fall Tournament. We have a race coming up here. This is the second race of a potential three. As you can see, it's between Asazas and Xyrak. Xyrak took the first race, and Asazas chose Standard, so we get to see an early escape this go-around. I'm one of your commentators, Hammerbro, and I am joined by James FNX. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this race. Two really good runners trying to get out of the first round. Xyrak trying to close things out, and Azaz trying to get a game through.
Yeah, I lean towards game threes because I like more randomizer. But really, I just want a good race. V31 has been the version of people getting randoed, so I'd like to see something close.
Yeah, nice shout out on Azaz's side to Rafael Nadal. Xyrak giving us the old good luck, have fun, and we should get started here in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I wonder if Xyrak's sprite is going to give him an advantage in this escape sequence here.
Blend in with the territory. You never know.
I mean, you can hope, right?
We are off.
Alright, 10 arrows. That's probably not going to be useful in either direction, because either we're not going to get a bow, or we'll get the bow and we'll get the bow with 30 arrows to begin with. So,
yeah,
could have just skipped that chest.
If you haven't played Standard with randomized weapons, the uncle will give you one of 7 different things to fight through the escape with, and if it's something that has ammo, you'll get a full ammo pack along with it.
Yeah, that's honestly just about the only thing that makes it tolerable. We did see a 5-6 crystal and a red pendant in the light world. I believe the pendant was desert and the 5-6 was eastern, but I may have been mistaken. As we get a sword.
Yeah, this will end up being a pretty standard escape for both runners then. Looking for bombs to get access to the last 3 items in the escape.
Yeah, that is basically what this turns into for pretty much all standard modes is, alright, where's a bomb? I need a bomb so I can go ahead and get these 3 items in the back.
I'm sure both the runners would also be happy with boots as their bomb replacement for that first location.
Oh yeah, sure, that's not something you think about all that often, but man, if you get those boots early, that'd be even better. Alright, so here we go. Both of our runners actually choosing to skip most of the enemies. The prize packs are randomized per enemy, but they do stay standard amongst themselves. So depending on what enemies drop, you can kind of determine whether or not you could possibly get bombs from them. I think we might be seeing some bomb hunting maybe towards the back of Escape, but it seems like both our runners are kind of ignoring that possibility for the time being.
Yeah, it looks like one of the blue guards dropped a blue rupee, which takes bombs out of the possibility of their drop table. So you're gonna have to wait for the rats and the ropes at the end to try and get those bombs.
Yeah, and it's in this situation where having knowledge of the game that these runners most definitely have is a huge advantage over your casual person playing, because if I were doing Escape, I wouldn't necessarily know this information off the top of my head, and these guys likely do. So they know upon seeing one drop from one enemy what they can skip and what their best chances of getting bombs later on are.
We're about to get to our third chest here in Escape in Zelda Cell. We've seen the key, we haven't seen the map yet. There's a moon pearl.
That's an interesting location for that, especially considering this is a standard seed.
Yeah, depending on what our runners find in Kakariko, this could be one of those seeds where you have a lot of different options as routing.
Yeah, one of those options would be 4-minute dark, or rather, I should say, because it's standard, about 10-minute dark world access and 4-heart blind or Mothula or something terrible of that nature. Our runner is about 3.5 minutes in and just about perfectly synced up at this point.
Yeah, both of them taking Zelda up to the end of Escape. Not a lot to talk about right now and what's going on. So where do you expect some of these runners, depending on what they find, to possibly put off Kakariko and go to a South Shore or something? If they get, say, a book or a hook shot or something like that, get some of the quicker caves down there out of the way.
So that's an interesting thought. I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on how they feel about their execution versus, their opponent. I feel like Azazas is going to be more likely to do something maybe a little more off the wall, being a game behind. And Xyrak is probably going to play the I'm just going to clear everything and hope that I either clear stuff, well enough to win, or hope that that Azazas makes a mistake and I get to take advantage of that. That's usually what we see from runners when they're either down by a game or up by a game. Looks like we got a blue rupee. Yeah, it looks like the snakes are the rupee pack too. So no bombs today. It's looking like.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, especially if, say, a lamp is in one of these 3 locations. Getting back here is troublesome.
A lamp or a glove, honestly. I'd much rather see the lamp back here. That wouldn't be full-on terrible, because you can still theoretically get a power glove and be okay. But, yeah, if we have a glove back here and the other glove is somewhere that we cannot currently access, then that could be difficult at best.
Both these runners wisely choosing not to farm it out and heading to the end of Escape.
Yep, Azazas well under 6 minutes. Xyrak going to be dropping a sub-6 as well, which is really, really good. Oh, and there's a glove. That is convenient.
Yeah, very good location for that glove. Might actually see, well, no bombs yet, but the first save and quit, you might see them go back to Sanctuary just to get the locations out of the way. There's 2 more items in there.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And it is really, really nice to have that glove there, because that is pretty much a weight off your mind after the entirety of Escape. You were just going, I'm not going to be able to do any of this, aren't I? I could potentially have orphaned these 3 locations, and this could be really, really difficult. And then you get the glove out of Sanctuary, and you're like, oh, never mind. Okay, this isn't bad. It's just like a regular open seed now.
Both these runners doing a lumberjack check, and it looks like just a big 20 up on lumberjack ledge. Won't be needing to kill Aghanim for that.
Yep, Xyrak foregoing the lumberjack ledge, but doing a couple kills here, probably trying to get another a tier 3. It would look like that tier 2 not being helpful. We'll see if we can get another one here. Oh, Xyrak going for the piece of heart. Usually runners will skip it, and Azaz is right behind him. Maybe they're both slightly concerned about that early moon pearl.
Yeah, early Dark World access is nice, but it is also very difficult to move around in the Dark World on green mail and low number of heart.
Yeah, when you're sitting on green mail, fighter sword, and 3 hearts, you're basically looking at 1-hit KO for a lot of the enemies, or 2-hit KO if you're lucky in terms of contact damage. So it's one of those situations where if you think you're going to get early Dark World access, you're definitely going to play the, there's a piece of heart, let's go grab it, because I might need that later.
Xyrak going after some of these rocks there. Is there a 50-50 in one of those?
If there is, I'm unfamiliar with it. And if there is, then Xyrak is 1 in 8 unlucky. Make that 1 in 16. So either this is a spectacularly unlucky set, as Asazas, ironically enough, gets bombs in the tavern, or that's not actually 50-50, and Xyrak was just kind of hoping.
Yeah, there's a 50-50 down in the southwest corner of Kakariko, but not going to need it with bombs here in the tavern.
Yeah, for Xyrak, that's going to be most definitely like an eye-rolling moment where you transition 5 times back and forth to try and get bombs, and of course the friggin' tavern gives you 3 just right off the top. Oh no, don't do that. Don't give us the cape. Not this early, come on.
The magic cape, a good safety item, but also a harbinger for a fire sword Aghanim if that ends up being what's needed to get into the dark world.
Yep, and since you already called Lamp in the back of Escape, I'm just going to leave that alone and just see if it comes to fruition. And the well was loaded, holy cow. It's at like 370 rupees or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
Hello,
yeah.
Zora.
Yeah, getting close to Zora money here. Another 30 to come out of Thieves' Hut, or Blind's Hut. Plus another 5 chests.
Alright, so that's our first heart of the game. That's not bad to grab. Go from 3 to 4, especially with Aghanim starting to loom over us a little bit. That's interesting. Azaz is deciding to forego the race game, and the library for that matter.
I don't mind it. If you're gonna head, he's gonna head and go get these 2 chests out of Sanctuary, and then figure out what he's doing from there. Kakariko not having a lot outside of that cape though. A lot of cash, but no progression.
Oh yeah, and something to keep in mind there, although the logic doesn't... There's no such thing as rupee logic in any of these seeds, so I mean, you could be forced to just sit there and farm and farm and farm. Between the fact that we did get the early glove and the fact that we have 450 rupees, our runners are probably kind of eyeing Zora with probably a small amount of distaste at this point.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that bad to route in. It's just very slow.
Yeah, exactly. Between the potential for Aghanim that is ever increasing, we're not too worried about it until we do find that lamp somewhere, but with the fact that we would need... I guess we're only technically 1 of 2 items away from Dark World access as well, with either a hammer or another club, so it's not full-on terrible. Just bombs at the race game, so the choice to skip that wasn't a bad one.
Zaz is cleaning up, starting to clean up South Shore, while Xyrak is going to go do those last 2 chests in Escape now. We know that those don't have anything of value. Zaz has got a heart out of the damn chest. Let's see what's drowning in the lake.
Honestly, I feel some drenched shoe wear wouldn't be a miss at all.
Someone lost their fortune in the lake. 300 rupees. That's all the Zora money you need.
All right, so can we do the rip-off fish now?
Yeah, I would guess Oz is gonna loop Mini Molder and Cave into take looker checks, unless there's some progression in Mini Molder and Cave. Getting bullied a little bit here by the Mini Moldorms, though.
Yeah, they are not friendly, especially in these corridors. They're just narrow enough to be really annoying, and then just wide enough to be really unpredictable. So it's like they did a test on that as, hey, there's Dark World access. Thank goodness.
Dark World access to the form of the hammer and half magic, a nice safety to go along with that cape. That'll make traversing some of these Dark World areas a little bit safer. Could also help out in some of the dungeons.
Yeah, very much so. And as you mentioned before, Azaz is grabbing some progression out of Mini Moldorm Cave and then deciding that we're going to forego those flipper checks and Ice Ride Cave for the time being. We'll see if Xyrak follows in his footsteps.
Yeah, this makes sense. We got blue pendant at Thieves Town. We got a green pendant at Ice Palace, and 5-6 Crystal Misery Mire.
I'm trying to think of what that layout does for our required items, and it's not really a whole lot, honestly.
It looks like everything is required. We've got at least one of the King of Samaria dungeons. We've got Swamp. We've got yeah, there's no. It's really a matter of how to get into. No, Desert is a pendant. No, everything you would expect to be required is required. Nothing is going to be left off the table in this one.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that we might not need that we normally would potentially need is the boots for Desert. Although we might end up needing the boots for Mire, depending on where that hook shot is.
Zaza is going to make their way up to the pyramid. Meanwhile, Xyrak is going to hop into the Dark World from the Portal 5, Portal 4.
Yep, Xyrak going to go ahead and confirm what we said before with a quick map check on his end. And this is one of those seeds that I feel like would be greatly sped up with a mirror somewhere, as we do see the King of Samaria sitting on the pyramid.
Yeah, it's a tricky location for that item. Pyramid's one of those locations where you can just easily skip it and go do some other things and forget about it for a long time. So good find there for Azazas, as he's going to continue up to Catfish.
Yeah, very much so. That's usually an item location that you go to fairly early or you leave for all of eternity. So we'll see if Xyrak makes the same decision here.
Without a bow or a lamp or any reason to really go into Palace of Darkness, the routing from Azazas has been pretty interesting. This is not something that I see out of a lot of runners, hitting a couple of these fairly out of the way locations very early. Xyrak doing a much more standard check as Stumpy here, getting his Tempered Sword.
That's actually a really nice find. We're still sitting on only 5 hearts here and green mail as Catfish divulges a bottle to us, which is kind of nice because it gives us Sick Kid, should we choose to come back to the Kakariko area here. But that Tempered Sword helps because it's going to kill pretty much everything, even in the Dark World, in one shot, which means we won't have to worry about having to hit enemies multiple times to get past them.
Yeah, and the damage boost on bosses between Master Sword and Tempered is probably the most important one in the game. Azazas is now going to go back to Kakariko from the south, check out Maze Race and the library, and then I would assume take the portal there and take a look at Bumper Ledge, maybe dip into Skullwoods and Peace Town.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and the fact that Azazas left these 2 locations allowed him to go ahead and route this from the south, which means Azazas is going to be able to check Sick Kid relatively quickly and without it being too far out of the way, given how he's routed stuff. So that ended up working out, actually.
Meanwhile, Xyrak is going to take the same portal just from the north and make his way over to this North Dark World to check out. I mean, having a cape this early and not needing it for Aghanim access makes that Bumper Ledge check very, very tempting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sick Kid on Azaz's side, only giving us a quarter heart, but put us up to 6 hearts, so not going to say no at this point.
Listen, he's only got a little bit of love to give.
I mean, that heart piece was about a, 17% increase in our health? That's significant enough that I call it more than a little bit of love.
Fair Fair enough. Xyrak is going to make this dive into Skull Woods, going back in front. Not having the cane is going to make this room a little tricky. Having Tempered Sword does pick up some of the kills if you end up having to fight these Gibdos.
I'm not sure how that Wall Master missed Xyrak, but that was a really good dodge.
It's the outfit. It's got to be the outfit.
It's gotta be. That hand was like, oh, never mind. You're one of the lieutenants here. I'll leave you alone.
Also, I'm not sure where runners picked them up, but both of them now have blue mail, which is going to definitely help out on this low heart count in the Dark World.
Yeah, blue mail is crucial if you're sitting on, I'd say, under, 8 hearts. At the very least. I love it no matter how many hearts I have, but these guys are quite a bit better at this game than I am.
Azaz is choosing to Death Warp instead of walking out of the room or getting Wall Mastered out of the room. Xyrak grabbing a key out of the first room here after the big chest into the bouncy castle, where we're getting literate.
And there was that book you were talking about early too. Is there something you'd like to tell me? Are you part witch?
I mean, my racing experience is a spoiler log tournament, so that's all I'm going to say about that.
That wasn't exactly a denial. Anyways, our runners are going through this room. Kind of a reverse high five there as they go by.
Yeah, and there's our second item, just a big 20. So that's both items out of Skull Woods. Azaz is going to get his book here in just a moment, and time for everyone to depart Skull Woods for the time being until we end up with a fire rod to beat Mothula.
Yep, with that hammer, though, we do have everything required to clear Thieves Town. So that's one boss we could go ahead and get out of the way if we were so inclined.
It is, but Thieves Town is a pendant, so we're going to see if these runners decide to make that clear out and make that gamble. Azaz first off is going to check out this bumper ledge where Xyrak is heading back into Thieves Town. Just a bottle up there. Xyrak's probably going to go grab that since that'll be his first bottle versus Azaz's second.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision for Xyrak, because on one hand, it's one bottle, and there are theoretically 4 of them out there, and there's nothing in that bottle, but on the other hand, it might be your only available bottle for a while, and if Sick Kid has something... Oh, speaking of having something, that's a nice hook shot.
It is. Xyrak's going to find that in just a moment, where Azazis is we're doing another reverse high five, one goes to Sea Hut and one goes to the brewery. I think it makes sense for Xyrak to grab that bottle. It doesn't at this point now that he's actually doing Thieves Town and Village Outcast stuff, but if he'd just gone to Bumper Ledge, I think it would have made sense to grab it. If you find a mirror in one of these locations, you can just immediately turn in Sick Kid and get that check out of the way.
Yeah, that's a good call. Meanwhile, we will get to see what of the 3 main options here our runners choose to go with. Xyrak is choosing to not skip Thieves Town altogether, so now it's just the toss-up between, am I going to do the front 4, or am I going to do the entirety of the dungeon?
Yeah, there's 4 items in here, and there's 4 chests downstairs that are fairly quick to get to. Really depends on how much you find in these chests, whether you want to continue on or not. It is a pendant. Don't have to beat the dungeon to beat the game. So far, we've just seen a couple keys.
Yeah, and this is where things get interesting, because Thieves Town can give you anywhere between 0 and 3 items in these first 4 chests. Our runners already have gone 0 for 2, so at best we're going to get 2 items out of this front 4. Alright, so there's 1, just a couple bombs. And there's 2. So out of our 4 checks remaining, which include blind themselves, we're sitting on 2 potential items, in addition to the potential pedestal check way down the line if we need it.
Yeah, it's I can see either way working on this. With only 2 items left, it's a pretty slow dungeon to go through without boots. It's a pretty safe dungeon other than Hellway. So getting these 2 items and getting just this entire area out of your mind for the rest of the game is a possibility. Looks like both runners are going to choose to do that.
That's a good point. There's also another option that I hadn't initially considered, and I don't think we will see because of how the dungeon is laid out, but it is a possibility. We could get the other 2 items out of here, like with the next 2 chests, and then just not kill blind.
Yeah, it's not super likely, but it could happen. The other thing is if for some reason one of these runners does die, I would expect them to just not finish the dungeon and head out. But Xyrak gets a couple hearts there. It's just a much more comfortable position of 4 hearts versus 2. Those grasshoppers, they move a little bit erratically, and on blue mail, they do 1 heart of damage if they hit you.
Yeah, these little green buggers are without a doubt probably the most terrifying enemy, low key, in A Link to the Past, just because they take tempered sword damage to kill. They do 2 hearts of damage on green mail, and it's kind of hard to predict them. You know, you've got the rats in Light World, but they don't take any damage to kill, really, and they only do a quarter of a heart. So even if you get bodied by one, you're going to be okay. With these grasshoppers, not so much.
Yeah, for sure. If I was Xyrak, I would maybe check big chests before even going and grabbing the main.
Are you thinking along the lines of not clearing blind at this point?
Yeah. Like, there's nothing else for our runners to do. I guess Xyrak still has bumper ledge to check, but there's nothing else for asazas to do in this area. So saving and quitting out of here if you have all 4 items isn't that big of a penalty.
That's a fair point. It does seem like our last item is going to be on blind, though, so yeah, if you want that 4th item, you're going to have to earn it.
Yeah, map and compass care package downstairs.
All right, and here comes the blind pun. I feel like the only thing that's overly bugging our runners at this point is the fact they have to fight blind for the 4th item in a pendant dungeon.
Yeah, you don't want to waste your time fighting pendant bosses if you don't have to. Very clean fight from Xyrak. Azaz is finishing up as well with a very clean fight.
I don't know, man. With those boots sitting there, I feel like taking out blind was the right call.
Yeah, they're going to be able to go fast now. We'll see if those boots are actually required to beat the seed, but no one's ever going to feel bad about having boots.
You know, I think at this point, we're either looking at, for boots to be required, there either has to be something in a boots-locked location specifically, something on the pedestal, with desert being boots-locked, or the GT big key on the torch. Because we know that we have the hookshot already, so we're not going to need it to get in the mire.
Xyrak is going to go grab his first bottle off the bumper ledge, while Azazas is going to check out Stumpy and get Tempered Sword.
Yep, so there's Tempered. It'll be interesting to see if Azazas makes a pod play, but that is not happening, at least not by dashing there. We still do have, let's see, neither of our runners have checked Ice Rod Cave. nor have they checked Agana. So we do have a couple Sphere Zero checks left.
We have a ton of them, actually, because there's still also Saraslo's Hut, there's Eastern Palace. There is still a lot to do in the overworld.
Yeah, good call. I'd completely forgotten about the Eastern area because I was so enamored with our Dark World access early there.
I think most runners forget about the Eastern area. From what I've seen from the tournament, it's not a very popular area for people to go to. You don't want to double dip Eastern Palace if you don't have to.
Looks like we are going to get a break up the mountain here from Asazas. Meanwhile, Xyrak is checking Sick Kid, I believe. Yep.
Yeah,
and oh, go ahead.
Old Man Escape is one of the more for new runners. It's a fairly intimidating dark room, but once you get used to it, it's actually one of the simplest dark rooms to do, and it pays off with the golden sword. Nice stick of butter for Zazas here.
That's a really early butter sword. Holy cow. Especially because this seed's been kind of stingy on everything else it's given us.
Nothing on the mountain, just 3 bombs and a heart container.
And Xyrak is following the call of the hookshot as well, as we're going to get 2 runners breaking up Death Mountain to go see if there's something behind that east side mountain play. There are a boatload of items here, so I don't blame either of them for doing it.
Yeah, 10 checks in total, plus access to Tower Hera for another 3 checks because you have book as well. There's just so much to do up here. Can't see them not making this sequence break. Just a mushroom so far.
Would you like to do a fetch quest?
I think that's the subtitle of E31. Would you like to do a fetch quest?
Or just would you like to get randoed? Hey, we get something useful. Heck yeah, blue boomerang.
What used to be the best boomerang until Fake Flipper and Solar Deletion got discovered. Blue boomerang. Not much else up there, though.
Hey, take it back. That Paradox Cave was stacked. Blue boomerang beats all. Alright, so meanwhile, Asazas is going to go ahead and take out Hera. Oh, actually, we have the book. I'd completely and totally forgotten about that. We're going to get an ether tablet check.
Something to do with those bottles. You get a bug net. Big key downstairs for Azaz. Won't have to do any. Won't have to do any hair pot clipping. Can still choose to if they want. Another chest check up here before that.
Yeah, now we get to play the Hera game of do we have to take a coffee break or do we not?
Meanwhile, the chat pointing out that the lamp was on the floating islands. The lamp is locked in behind Mirror and Mitts. I can't see either of our runners going for that lamp at any point.
Not unless they really can't find the fire rod somewhere and they absolutely need a fire source. Like that would be a fairly extreme amount of unideal at that point.
Oh yeah, it's also locked behind the flute.
Well,
there's the fire rod.
I'm gonna take that back. I'm just gonna go ahead and backpedal that entire statement. No one heard that. I didn't say anything about the fire rod because it's right there. So never mind.
And look at you accusing me of being a witch.
Hey, now I was talking about them not having it. If anything, I'm an anti-witch. I am an inverse seer. Just go ahead and listen to anything I say is going to happen in the future, and bet on the opposite.
Meanwhile, Asazas with a very, very quick Moldorm fight with Buttersword. It's just 2 slashes to get rid of that bad boy. Gets his first crystal. Asazas putting first blood on the table, up 1 crystal to none now, with Xyrak right on his tail.
Yep, 1 crystal at 33.5 minutes is a little bit slow, but we already did have a clear of Thieves Town, as well as a boatload of overworld locations that we're taking care of. So it looks like between Spiral Cave and our lovely Spike Cave, Asazas has chosen the former, which means we're likely to not see a Spiral Cave check on his side, or a Spike Cave check on his side at the very least.
Yeah, it's pretty slow to get back there, and you can get there fairly quickly with a saving quit if you need to. Or loop it in with Dark World Death Mountain checks once you get those mitts. There's a mirror.
Alright, so that was definitely a good call. Alright, Moldorm goes down on Xyrak's side as well. I think we might be... Never mind. I was going to say we might be getting an eastern area check here. Although we might still be getting it. We did see 3 bombs on Lake Hylia there, so that's not going to be something we're worried about.
Yeah, just sneaking a peek what's there on the way to eastern, where can't clear the dungeon yet. Don't have a bow, but there's still 3 items in Shrosso's hut and at least 2 items to gain in Eastern Palace.
I mean, there's always the potential of a bow back here somewhere, which can be a really trolly place for it. See, confirmed, I'm not a witch.
We do find Bombos and a second bottle with a fairy in it. Azaz is a merciful runner, has a butter sword, and still chooses to just boomerang the Armo statue out of the way instead of killing it.
Maybe going for the pacifist run this time around. Alright, so Azaz is biting the bullet. We're going to go ahead and see a dip here into Eastern. This is something runners generally don't prefer to do because, as James said earlier, don't have the bow, can't clear it, unless, of course, the bow is sitting here, which, again, would be terrible.
Meanwhile, Xyrak is going to turn that mirror into a couple of checks here with K45 and the Bombos tablet.
Yeah, it looked like Xyrak forgot about K45 for a moment there. Was going to go down and do Bombo's tablet, but then went, oh wait, I can check this on the way. Might also combine that into a desert area check. With that book, the fire source now, and the boots, we can actually full clear desert if we really wanted to.
Yeah. Chat asking if either of these runners have been in the Palace of Darkness. Said no. It's been outside of right now. These 2 runners have been on each other's tails for most of the run. Xyrak didn't head over to the Bombos tablet while Azaz continues to make his way through Eastern Palace. But it is surprising with as many options as this seed is given that we haven't had that much route divergence between the 2 runners.
I mean, you say we have a whole lot of stuff open, but it opened in a way that wasn't extreme. So there are a couple different paths that we could have chosen on either end of things here, but the logic kind of made one of those paths just seem better, and I think the runners have generally been following that. Azaz is going to the eastern area. It does make sense because, as you said, we've got 3 items in the back there, and then at least 2 items we're going to be able to get out of eastern, maybe 3. And then Xyrak turning the mirror and book into a desert area play, along with Cave 45 and Bombo's tablet, also not a bad idea. So, it honestly wouldn't surprise me to see our runners switch places after they are done with what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to guess Azazas is going to make a dive into Pod while Xyrak hops into Desert.
Yep, and then what they choose to do next, I think, will depend greatly upon what we find in either of these locations. If both of these parts of Hyrule end up coming up dry, then it wouldn't surprise me to see our runners just kind of switch places.
There's the flippers. That's interesting. That gives Xyrak full access to Swamp Palace, but it also is one of the 2 missing pieces to Ice Palace in that 3rd pendant.
Yeah, I'm also going to ignore the fact that I said something about desert coming up dry, and we ironically enough got the flippers out of there. Goodness gracious.
Anti-Witch strikes again. Zaz is now in a pod heading away to the shooter chest.
Yeah, apparently the randomizer is telling me that I need to choose the way I word things very carefully. As we do have a second item out of here in Desert, Xyrak is leaving Agnes Cave alone for the time being, decided that 2 items out of Desert is good enough. We're going to go ahead and probably make use of those flippers.
Yeah, Xyrak actually did get Agnes Cave before heading into Desert. There wasn't anything of value there.
Oh, I completely missed that. It's a good catch.
Azazas is going to try and hover over here to the right side. This is one of the most difficult hovers in the game that runners that do hover will try to do. Because you have to turn in the middle of it to get around a ledge there.
Yeah, and the turn, to my knowledge, is at least nearly pixel perfect. There's not a whole lot of give on either side of that ledge.
Right, and with no potion, we can't bottle glitch our way into the right side either. So Zazas may give this a couple more shots. At some point, you just kind of have to give up on it, but I think Azazas feels like getting this done will benefit them greatly. Instead, they're going to go to the back.
Yeah, which isn't a bad idea. Pod's a lot like a mullet. It's usually more business in the front, more party in the back, because out of the 6 chests up front, we're guaranteed to have 4 small keys. So usually the back is where most of the worth is.
They're the mitts.
Okay.
Those are in logic. In V31, this little loop area is fire rod locked, but not lamp locked.
Alright, and at 41.5 minutes, we are going to get a Ice Rod Cave check.
It's too early for my taste.
Yeah, with that 5 rupees, you ended up being correct there.
And as chat pointed out, Mitz puts all 3 pendant dungeons in logic.
You know, I really want to tell you that you're wrong, but you're not.
Xyrak with a nice water walk. It's gonna head up to check out the Zora area and Waterfall Cave.
So I guess now the question is, what do we have, what do we need that could be on the pedestal? Unfortunately, the answer is a lot. Well, there's a flute, so that's one less thing.
Yep, I think at this point it would be a bow at pedestal, with the second bow being again this tower, or a medallion, or the ice rod.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we could go bow, ice rod, medallion, or anything that leads to those three naturally. Amusingly enough, we could. Oh no, because we already saw the lamp. I was gonna say we could logically have the lamp on the pedestal, which would be hilarious, but that was up on the floating island, so never mind that.
Yeah, that lamp is now in logic. Like I said before, though, I don't expect either of these runners to go grab it. And Zora, for all that talk earlier, Zora just having some hearts for sale.
I mean, it's not common for Zora to actually be useful, as Xyrak forgot that he wasn't Azazas and doesn't actually have the mitts.
Let me see, Xyrak. I don't know. Not sure what's going on here. So turning on that flute, that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead and get that out of the way. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a mushroom turn in once this flute gets activated. It's not super ideal because fake powder is a thing that's come back to haunt a couple people during this tournament, but you have it available. It does look like Xyrak is going to go straight for the bug in the back, though.
It's an interesting choice. I mean, we've already gotten both items out of Skull Woods. It's just a matter of getting that crystal, and with Skull Woods not being a 5/6, this might be one you might put off until just before you go to Turtle Rock or something.
So honestly, I think it might be a matter of Xyrak not being positive where to go next. So just kind of doing, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe not. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and clear this, kind of clear my mind, give me a moment to figure out how I want to group things in what order. Obviously, I have no idea if that's actually what's going on in their head, but it's something I've seen runners do.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a little confused about where to go, you do something you know you can get done, something you know you have to do, and just take the time on your way there to think about what your next move is.
I honestly think at this point, Xyrak was really banking on flippers having something. And when it didn't, it was kind of an, okay, hold on, what do I want to do now? Because no one really wants to go clear either, Green Pendant, Ice Palace, or Swamp, when you could potentially not have to go into Ice Palace at all, and have the potential of go-moding Swamp. So I think that was a moment of, maybe I don't want to do this right now, and let's see if I can get something else. Meanwhile, Azaz is a couple minutes behind on the Ice Rod Cave check. Is 46 minutes late enough for you, or would you still rather wait a little longer than that?
I would rather last location that place if I have to.
Be very careful. V31 might just give that to you.
I mean, V31 did a lot of things to me in this tournament, so I understand the risks, but I don't like checking Ice Rock Cave at all. Azaz is about to go get his flute.
Yeah, that's a fair point. V31 has done a bunch of stuff to a bunch of people, so it's been amusing. It also does look like we're going to get a waterfall bottle check. Might as well. At worst case, you'll break even, and at best case, you'll get a blue goo for about 3 seconds of your time, and then, yeah, release a fairy and get to drop another one. Maybe. There we go.
Meanwhile, Xyrak, after killing Mothla, is going to make a check here at the pedestal to see if Ice Palace actually is needed. It is not for the pedestal, it's only a heart container there, but there may still be something in Ice Palace we need.
Yeah, that's a good point. We also might get a green pendant Sahasrara hiding something from us, which would be always fun. That's the best. Alright, so I feel like at this point, Xyrak's next play is going to have to be to get into Pod. At some point, that seems to be where our next progression does seem to be the mitts. I'm not seeing anything.
I think Xyrak's next play is probably going to be into Swamp, honestly. It's got everything to do to full clear it. It's Crystal. You can make this play onto King's Tomb right now, but Swamp makes a lot more sense from their seat than Pod does.
Yeah, that is a fair point, and we haven't seen any checks for Swamp yet, so we don't know if that's going to come in with something useful or not. I've just seen a lot of people try to avoid Swamp as best they can. Meanwhile, on Azaza's side, we finally get to release the Quacken.
The pheasant is present.
I like that one. I don't think I've heard that one before.
We're also getting a mushroom turned in without fake powder from Asazas. Asazas, who has the Cane of Samaria, and Xyrak doesn't. Could have made that play if they wanted to.
Yep, just 10 arrows, but not in a position to save Scum, so hopefully that won't end up being a difference in this race.
And going back to that location for Cane of Samaria, the pyramid is really isolated for Xyrak right now. It's a place that he may not go back to for quite some time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's one of those situations where you're either going to do it right now, or you're going to do it in about 45 minutes.
Xyrak going to make this mushroom play and go up to Catfish and get a bottle. Going to be disappointed with what they've gotten for their troubles. We'll see if they end up heading back to Pod or if they head to Swamp after that.
Yeah, that's a good point. If Xyrak does choose to, like, when they actually do get to Pod, it's going to be a question of, do they check the pyramid first? Because if they do, they're almost definitely, well, they're obviously going to get that Cane of Samaria. But if they don't check it first, you can get super easily sidetracked by those myths sitting in Pod, and then just forget all about the pyramid ledge.
Definitely. Meanwhile, Azazas is making the dip into Swamp. Again, this dungeon is full clearable for him. 6 items. A lot of slow checks in this dungeon, though. And that compass in the first chest is going to make making some of those slow checks a lot more palatable.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that there's something like a 5-minute difference between a go mode Swamp and a full clear. It does look like we're going to get that Cane of Samaria, though, on Xyrak's side, so that's at least one item we won't have to worry about being orphaned.
Yeah, and Xyrak's going to breathe a sigh of relief seeing that Cane of Samaria, knowing that it's likely that the cane has not been put to use so far in finding anything.
Alright, so with the hammer out, it looks like you were correct. We're going to get a Swamp clear before Xyrak heads into Pod.
From an item density standpoint, it just makes sense. We know that myths are in Pod, but that doesn't really preclude anything else being in Swamp that's needed for the rest of this run. Bow could easily be in here, and one of our medallions could easily be in here. Azazas found a bottle in the compass chest and is going to do left side.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I see a lot of runners go for the clear of swamp before they even touch left side, but with grabbing one of those dungeon items super early in swamp and then knowing that you need like 5 items for go mode potentially, just go ahead and get it cleared.
Cheeky sword beam there to pop that switch well away from the door, or well close to the door.
Yeah, very much so. I didn't even know you could do that. Alright, so at this point, I think we're just looking for bow, ice rod, and then potentially medallions.
Yep, that's all we need to clear this one out. But that's still at least 2 items and possibly 4.
Yeah, at nearly 54 minutes in, that's not exactly where you want to be. As we get a vanilla big key, because of course it's there.
Fire shield and a vanilla big key. It does. It's a decent place for the big key. You're not going to have to like get the key and then backtrack your way to the big chest.
Yeah, that is a fair point, and having to make the decision to potentially double dip or not after going full left side, that would not be a fun decision to make.
Just a little bit of love in that big chest, though.
Yep, as our runners once again give each other kind of an extended high five there, in the same room but going in different directions.
And Xyrak also seeing the early compass is going to do a full left side clear.
Meanwhile, the farther we get through swamp, the more it's looking like those myths were our progression. Which, I mean, it's not bad. We do get a crystal out of this. It's going to be the 3rd one for both our runners, so we've developed kind of a getting there sort of mentality. We're 3 down as the other easy checks gives us a map, so thanks for that.
This will be Azaza's 2nd crystal. He did not go back and kill Mothil yet. He's saving that for a rainy day. Basically, there's nothing else to do there for him, so no reason to rush over and kill Mothil and Skullwood. So I got both items, but this will be his 2nd, and this will be Xyrak's 3rd.
Yeah, good catch there. I mentally missed that blind was not a crystal off the top of my head. And Argus is getting turned into Calamari.
Almost getting the 0 cycle, just barely missed it. But a very, very nice Argus fight. A little sloppy at the end, but not a big deal.
I'm calling commentator's curse on your side.
Witches and curses do go hand in hand.
They do. That Cane of Burn are kind of giving us a mental slap in the back of the head of a, hey, you remember Spike Cave? Yeah, you haven't been there yet, have you?
Zaz is going to do some mirror checks that Xyrak already covered while Xyrak finishes up Swamp. Now the world is really open here. You can make a play on Mire, you can make a play on Dark Death Mountain. The only things you can't do are beat Pod and Eastern right now, and beat Turtle Rock, but you can do a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would not be surprised at all to see this flute to the Mire location, just partially for knowledge, honestly. Because those 2 medallions that we do not have might be required and might not. And it's just nice at this point to have that knowledge in your arsenal so you know when you're in go mode. Quake.
It looks like Quake for Mire, so not gonna be able to hop in there right now. Honestly, I think that's for the best. You can now just loop in a Dark Death Mountain check, get the rest of the knowledge. There's an Ice Rod, so if Turtle Rock is Bombos, that's going to be a full clear.
Yeah, that's a good point. And either way, with those mitts, Dark Death Mountain has started calling a little more strongly as we get along here. Especially for Asazas, who has already taken Pod off of the map to give him those mitts. So that's one more big concentration of items out of the way. And then, yeah, I'm not surprised to see this turn into Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, meanwhile, Xyrak is kind of funneled into a pod check after this. His pod and Eastern hasn't been touched by him, and there's not much else for Xyrak to do after Swamp.
And Xyrak putting Argus on the right-hand side wall and just keeping him there. That's not usually what we see. Usually we see Argus up against the bottom wall, but that way works just as well.
A very clean fight as Xyrak goes up 3 crystals to 2, but it's still missing a very big piece in those Titans mitts.
Yep, meanwhile, we're going to get our last piece of knowledge here on Azaz's side in just a moment. Bombos, alright, so we can full clear this baby.
Yeah, it is Bombos. We get the full clear Turtle Rock. Xyrak making the run-up to Pod. He'll get his mitts shortly.
Alright, so that means that our official go mode at this point is either going to be Bow or Quake for Azaz's side of things, since they did just grab that Ice Rod. Now, in a lot of races, I've seen there be something sitting here in a Super Money Cave. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. Give me Quake. Or alternatively, don't.
Yeah, instead give me a piece of heart and 10 arrows. One other
arrows
thing
aren't even worth anything.
That's right, they're worth actual nothing. One interesting thing now is that Xyrak has Bombos. There is a chance that Xyrak chooses to go up to Death Mountain, sees a Turtle Rock as Bombos, and goes in and dives it, not knowing that Ice Rod is down in the mire area.
Alright, that's the gold coin we don't need. And Azaz's grabbing that lamp.
I don't hate it. It's a fairly quick check. You know you have to do Mire, which is probably the hardest dark rooms in the game. And Turtle Rock is, I think it's the Turtle Rock dark room is easy, but it's not trivial.
Yeah, actually, all 4 of our crystals, or 4 of our 5 crystals left on Azaz's side do have dark rooms, so it's kind of a situation of, it's probably not going to lose me a whole lot of time, just come grab this thing.
Yeah, you probably make it the time just in Mire for grabbing it.
Yeah, and although the Turtle Rock Dark Room is going to go to the same speed regardless, because that the platform only has 1 speed, you can also save a bit of time in Eastern and Pod. So, it's not a bad pickup at all.
The key in the first chest for Zaz is here in Turtle Rock. It means there is a possibility of skipping that lava chest if you're feeling gambly.
Alright, so after this Turtle Rock, where do we think Azaz is going to go check?
Well, if Quake isn't in Turtle Rock and the bow isn't in Turtle Rock, I think you have to dive ice at that point. If one of those 2 items is in here, you go and do what you can with that item.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to go ahead and assume no progression here, because if there is progression, then it's rather obvious where they're going to be going. At that point, you play the, well, I'm just going to clear everything and hope that what I need falls into my lap, because that's the quickest way to complete the seed.
Yeah, I think the only play that Azazas would have if a progression is in here is to dive into ice. It's 3 items plus a green pendant. But it's always on Laser Bridge, so we're not going to have to worry about it.
Ha! I'm not sure that that one holds as true as it did in V30, but we'll get to see in a moment here, actually. Just a couple minutes, we'll be over there.
That is an interesting pickle that Azazas got themselves into.
Ring around the bunny beam, but did manage to not get caught by it, so, I mean, it helped.
You're gonna have to take it a little slow going up this hallway since the switch is not where you want it to be.
Alright, so it looks like Xyrak is following Azazas into at least Dark Death Mountain. Does not have that ice rod as you mentioned, so this could be unfortunate if they do choose to go into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to decide not to go into Turtle Rock with having everything but the ice rod and having the right medallion for it.
Yeah, very much so, and especially with as likely as it has been in the past versions that that ice rod be sitting somewhere on Laser Bridge. It's a difficult temptation to avoid. Mimic Cave just giving us a piece of heart this go round, so we are still looking for that bow and quake. Now, actually, one of the awesome changes for V31 is that there are 2 bows around Hyrule somewhere, so you don't have to worry about walking around Hyrule with the silver arrows and nothing to shoot them with. That being said, both of them could be in Logic, or as you mentioned before, we could very well have one sitting in GT out of reach. That was a really nice time for a refill.
Yeah. Lucky drop there for Azazas as Xyrak goes through Shot Cave. And it's going to choose to go get that lamp as well.
Yeah, pretty much in the same situation as Azazas. Still needs to complete Eastern, Pod, Mire, Turtle Rock. Might as well get it.
Here we go, Laser Bridge, 4 chests, 1 key.
And 1 laser to the face.
Make that 2 lasers to the face.
I'm sorry. Actually, it looks like Xyrak might be avoiding Turtle Rock. Oh, this is a huge play.
Yeah, the Spike Cave call at least gets him away from Turtle Rock and the problem of double dipping that dungeon. And if something is here, Azazas likely is going to check Spike Cave after Turtle Rock, but could skip out. There's Quake. Laser Bridge having it all yet again.
Yeah, good call on your part. I doubted you for a little bit there as we went through those first 3 checks, but I really should have known better.
Xyrak going through Spike Cave, not getting what they're looking for, and saving and quitting out. Probably heading to my area now?
Yes, which is honestly the most ideal location they can head at this point.
The Azazas with boots and Butter Sword is going to make very, very quick work of Trinex here, getting the 0 cycle.
Yeah, that boss just got shell-shocked.
And there's the bow. That is it. Azazas at 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 55 seconds has just entered go mode with that kill of Trinex.
Wow, that was insane. I wasn't even thinking about the potential of Trinex dropping a bow. Holy cow. Meanwhile, Xyrak did pick up the ice rod there, and I swear, even through the stream, I could hear a sigh of relief.
So we are now tied on crystals, 4 apiece, or 3 apiece, sorry. But Azazas has all the information they need, and Xyrak looks like is making the right play, heading up to Turtle Rock to finish that dungeon off and get what they need for go mode. They're going to be a little behind, but a dungeon up. Xyrak has completed Skull, what Azazas has not.
Yeah, so essentially, Xyrak is going to likely be behind by a Turtle Rock clear minus the back of Skull Woods. Where that'll end up being after all of this execution is completed, I have no idea, but Azazas likely does have a little bit of a lead at this point.
Yeah, Xyrak will be able to go mode Eastern, had not touched that dungeon yet. That's time that's already been put in the bank. So Azazas probably with a slight lead, like you said, but I think it's still a close race.
Yeah, it's close enough that one mistake at this point could still turn the tables pretty quickly. And actually, all things considered, this seed didn't end up being terrible. We got relatively early boots, really early Dark World access, and then an early mirror and book to go with it, so we didn't have to worry about getting something really late and then having to check a bunch of orphaned locations.
Yeah, the seed has had a pretty nice flow to it. The only thing that would have been potentially trolly is Kina Samaria sitting on the pyramid. Both our runners did manage to find that, and I really like this routing decision by Azazas to get these 2 bow dungeons out of the way before hitting up Mire or Swamp, and grabbing some arrows along the way before hitting against tower.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where Xyrak played it a little safer and decided to prolong going in dungeons that they couldn't full clear, whereas Azazas maybe made a little more of a gamble in that regard of, well, let's just go ahead and run in here, and if there's something in here, which there's about, at least 8 items in between those 2 dungeons, then I'll have it done, and I'll get that item, and sure enough, Pod had the mitts, which opened things up a little bit earlier for them.
Yeah, right now those early mitts are what is the difference in this race between Xyrak and Azazas. As Azazas making his way to Helmasaur King, 17 hammer hits, and then with the Butter Sword, just a couple quick slashes will take care of it.
Yeah, Butter Sword pretty much gonna make the rest of these bosses trivial. That's generally what Butter Sword does.
That is crystal number 4 for Azazas. We're tied up again, 4 crystals and pieces. Xyrak heading towards the big key chest in Turtle Rock.
Yep, meanwhile, Azazas is going to absolutely mutilate the Armos Knights here in just a couple minutes with 18 arrows, and that'll be their 5th. Oh, that bunny sprite's hilarious.
That's a really good bunny sprite. Yeah, one advantage for Azazas here in this this crystal count. As the rest of these dungeons, Swamp is ready to be ready to be done. You just have to hop in and do it. Eastern Palace here, you just have to get back to the back and do it. And Mire, it doesn't really matter where the big key is. Your opponent's gonna have to find it just the same. So really no go mode advantage is going to be picked up by Xyrak in these dungeons, and having to go through Turtle Rock full cleared essentially is going to cost him some time here.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage of the last two go mode items being basically the last two items that you check in Turtle Rock. So you're going to have to check everything before it. But yeah, that stop to go ahead and get the Mire area out of the way for Xyrak prevented this race from getting really out of hand.
Definitely. Imagine going through Turtle Rock, getting Quake, and then having to go back to Mire and get that Ice Rod.
Alrighty, and there is another crystal for asazas. Pod and Eastern being really fast when you've already been in there, and you've already and you've got the mirror. Just pop one done, mirror, and get the other one out of the way.
Yep, and Azaz is gonna head probably to Misery Mire next. Save Skullwoods for no, I'm actually gonna do Skullwoods and then Misery Mire.
Xyrak actually got the same heal that Asazas did in the crystal roller room there.
Yeah, there hasn't been much that one runner has checked that the other did not in this seed. Other than a little bit of divergence halfway through the seed, these two have been really on each other's footsteps most of the time.
Yeah, in fact, I think the only outstanding check that one has the other hasn't is Spike Cave by Xyrak.
Yeah, maybe King's Tomb as well. Just not a lot of difference between these two runners. Just a more efficient route so far from Azazas.
Xyrak was so close to staying on there, but just managed to get hit off at the end. And honestly, Turtle Rock here is showing its length. Like, this is ridiculous. We're nearly going to have a Mothula cleared around the same time as Trinex goes down. And that would be 3 crystals on Azaz's side to Xyrak's 1. And it's not because Xyrak made a mistake.
Yeah, Turtle Rock is interminably long at times. And Azaz's getting these 3 down. Very good fight against Mothula.
Alright, so Azaz is going to be heading to Mire next as the 7th and last crystal as Xyrak grabs his bow. And there we go. Go mode for Xyrak. That being said, both our runners still have pretty much a full inventory at this point. We are just missing the powder and the silvers, I believe, as well as the shovel.
Yeah, a lot of inventory items have been found, and not a lot of some of the other extraneous stuff. One thing that's going to be interesting here in Mire for Azaz is we've got 7 arrows going into Mire, and and make an interesting decision whether he wants to save those arrows for the mimic rooms in Ganon's tower and just do a sword kill on Vitreous, or if you just go ahead and use those arrows up and hope to get what you need in Ganon's tower arrow-wise.
Well, with Gold Sword and Cape, I would not be surprised at all to see either spin strats or dash strats. Especially with the low arrow count.
Xyrak getting trolled a little bit in Mire 2. Sword Beam not doing what he wanted it to for a couple shots.
Yep, and amusingly enough at this point, we are getting Mire clears on both sides, so we're going to get to see the exact lead here. It's going to be an Eastern and a Pod clear, plus or minus the difference in the Vitreous kill.
Yeah, we know for Zaz's Pod and Eastern took about 6 or 7 minutes. Xyrak is going to have to hunt for big keys in both dungeons, which will eat up a little bit of time. But yeah, it's going to be probably about somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes to get its tower for both these runners.
Yeah, I want to say the Eastern big key was early. I don't recall where Pods was, though. Oh, actually, Xyrak has full cleared Pod because they have the mitts. Just need to go ahead and get Helmasaur out of the way. Meanwhile, the big key in Mire is once again being elusive. Of course.
It's hiding behind a cutscene.
Yep, and Xyrak gonna save a little bit of time, just going with worst case scenario, and we have a 17-second cutscene about to come up on both of our runner sides. Yes, it is actually 17 seconds. It is terrible.
Bad news for Xyrak, he's got another 17-second cutscene waiting for him at Pod.
Yeah, that is a good point. But while we have a bunch of shaking on either of our runners' sides, this is a good time to remind you to go ahead and follow both of them. They are kicking butt on this seed, and it's not easy to go ahead and put forth a race like this in a competitive setting and have it stream for everyone. So kudos to both of them. Also, shout out to the man pushing the buttons behind the scenes here, Regaro. He's been doing a great job of keeping us on track here.
Yo, I know Azaza set up a spooky glitch. I didn't see if Xyrak did or not. From that dash, it definitely looks like it.
Honestly, one of my favorite parts about this game is the fact that I don't think I've ever seen anyone bonk past that spike. That was actually kind of awesome. But anyways, it's not what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by awesome tech. Goodness gracious. Is that this game is, you know, some 30 years old. We're still finding new ways to slightly break it and make our routes more convenient.
Yeah, even in the last 2 years, we've had this glitch, the spooky action glitch, where you can modify the Y coordinate of your fire rod shots to get switches off screen. But the fake flipper stuff with its illusion has also been a very recent find, just in the last couple months. And Azaz is choosing to go with the gold sword kill while Xyrak does arrows.
Yep, and to add to that list, we also found the Harapot clip. So yeah, stay tuned in 5 years when we come up with new ways to break the game and make routing a little easier.
It is that time. If you're looking in chat and want to play a fun little game, we are now at the point where Zaza is heading to Ganon's Tower. And in Ganon's Tower, there are 22 locations where that big key can be. If you want to put your guesses in right now, whoever gets it right first will win some internet cred. Where do you think the big key is going to be today?
So, my baseball number in high school was 34, and since I can't guess that, I'm going to go with half that. I'm going to say 17. Where are you looking to find it today?
I always go with a lucky number 11.
Okay, not a bad choice, halfway between. It is neither quick nor trolly.
While Azazas makes his way up to Ganon's Tower, Xyrak heading into Pod, we're going to see a similar situation Azazas has with Xyrak, as he's going to go through 2 dungeons that put a tax on your arrow count right before going in Ganon's Tower, which has 2 rooms that require arrows to get past. So it's going to be kind of interesting to make sure that Xyrak keeps his arrow count up before Ganon's Tower to say it, keep himself from getting locked out a bit.
Yeah, that is a really good point. And arrow and bomb count are something that runners will sometimes forget to look at, as it's not something you generally think about upon running through all this stuff here. Xyrak is doing a check there for the big key, which, well, that was a nice place to find it, I guess. And then, yeah, we're going to see a quick Helmasaur fight, followed by Armos.
At least Xyrak is doing these 2 in a good order. You can fill up to 30 arrows pretty easily in Eastern Palace. So you'll have 12 left after a perfect Armos fight to go through Ganon's Tower, which should be enough as long as Ice Armos isn't needed. Doing these in the other order could leave you a little behind.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although with Gold Sword, Helmasaur is not really going to be an arrow sink as much as it could be.
No, not at all. Azaz is choosing to go right side. We'll see if find the big key here, and if not, whether it continues on and goes all the way to Ice Armos from the right side. He does have the equipment to do it fairly easily with a protection item and boots.
Yep, meanwhile, we had a perfect turtle room on Xyrak's side, and yeah, with Hope Room having 2 small keys, it was just kind of screaming, go that way. Then, of course, there wasn't anything there, but, you know, the screens were still there. Meanwhile, Bob is alive, as we have a compass that we are not going to be grabbing.
And we are 7 checks in here now, with the 2 chests in Hope Room and 4 in the compass room. Along with Bob's torch, as we head up to Dark Magician room, and some Stealthos trying to get away with you and your crop.
Well, we did find silvers, just in case we wanted to make the Ganon fight even more trivial.
And that's how I like to fight Ganon, is with butter, sword, and silvers. Usually with 20 hearts and red mail too, though. But
don't forget the cape. The cape helps.
I run 100%, so I've got everything.
Well, there you go. That works. Alright, so Azaz is going through a couple of the single room checks at this point. Nothing in our double firebar room. We've got the fire snake room coming up next, and then randomizer room, so called because there's absolutely nothing in NMG. Although frequently there's absolutely nothing in randomizer either, so room not doing so well on either set.
We're now 13 checks in, no big key.
Yep, 13 checks and 15 hearts, so GT has at the very least been good for our heart count. Asazas is nearing that 20 heart total that you mentioned, but I don't think he's quite going to get there.
I don't think so either. Doesn't look like he's going to get a big key out of Random Room either. So it's either behind Ice Armos or it's on the tile room.
Yep, for those of you who are terrible people who like guessing 22, you are now sitting at about a 20% chance given what we know currently. We've got Bob's chest, 3 behind Ice Armos, and then the dreaded room itself.
What this does mean is Xyrak chooses to take those 2 keys in Hope Room and does a full clear on the right-hand side. He's going to find the big key a lot faster than Azazas did. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but it is an opportunity to make some of his time up.
I mean, yeah, if Xyrak guesses, you just go ahead and gamble his tile room, that would be actually insane.
Nice clean Ice Armos with those silver arrows. There's the big key in chest number 20.
Yep, and it looks like we did not have anyone guess 20. We had a 21 and a 19.
Shoutouts to CyriUX guessing 21 first and winning our guessing game for the day. Azaz is getting a nice arrow drop from the second mimic room. Now having silvers, those 5 arrows are going to be very useful for fighting Ganon.
Yes, most definitely so. It's also a situation where you might want to pick up a couple more, just in case you want to use a few in the gauntlet here.
Yeah, there's a couple convenient places to pick them up though, in the Stalfos room and the refill room. So I think we're good to go for Azazas. It's gonna be full kitted up, ready to tear down this gauntlet. Very good first room.
Meanwhile, with 8 arrows, yep, wouldn't be surprised to see Xyrak just turn around and go ahead and pick up those 10 arrows. Alrighty, meanwhile, the gauntlet not being terribly unfriendly here for Azazas wasn't perfectly ideal, but the enemies didn't give us the worst RNG possible here, so we are going to head into this fight with 7 arrows and hopefully exit it with 4. Wonderful fight there. Alrighty, and on to 2 of the most satisfying rooms to learn, partially because they're so easy, and partially because they don't look easy, especially not this one. But it's not too difficult to learn, and if you want to learn a room that makes you look cool, that's the one I would go with.
Yeah, I finally did that successfully for the first time during the tournament. Felt real good about myself. Azaz is really low on magic, but did pick up those 2 blue pots from Waterfall Fairy. So nothing to really worry about here.
Yeah, in addition to half magic and a couple of refill points here along Ganon's Tower, we're going to be okay.
Xyrak just now getting Ganon's Tower. He'll start making his dive through basement floors for that big key. Choosing to go right side. If he chooses to do full right, he'll pick up a little bit of time, but it may take a couple Ganon falls to catch up at this point.
Yeah, at this point, this is definitely Azazas' race to win or lose, as the case may be, which is nice because we always want more rando, and Azazas' win here would be a game 3, so we can always pull for that.
Xyrak getting bullied a bit here in the torch room.
Honestly, I would be shocked to see Xyrak go ahead and get Ice Armos out of the way from here without a mirror. I have not seen anyone do that strat in a very long time.
Yeah, if you feel you're behind, it makes a little bit of sense. You aren't going to have any problems with the bridge. It's a faster way to get to Ice Armos, but yeah, it's a strategy that hasn't been in favor in a long time. Suppose in here, I was going to grab this key and head to the left side, so not going to be able to grab that advantage here.
Yep, so we're going to see a similar number from Xyrak as we did from Asazas. Might not necessarily be 20, but it's going to be somewhere between 19 and 21.
Meanwhile, Azaz is taking down Aghanim too in a very quick fashion, and there's one fight left. It's time to dance with the pig.
Yep, and as we said before, we've got Butter Sword, we've got the silvers, we have our pick of invulnerability items, we've got a blue goo that we just used and another one in the bank, blue mail, 16 hearts. I don't see this fight taking very long.
Yeah, this is going to be a much more comfortable Ganon fight than you often get in Randomizer.
Yeah, Ganon does try to serenade us a little bit with a song there. I don't think it's going to work out in his favor, though. And just like that, we're already halfway through phase 3. Just one more sword smack to put on the piggy, and then 4 arrows to pop him in the face with. And a silverless, just for a good measure, I guess.
Very nice, getting the torch glitch with the fire rod, making very, very quick work of Ganon. And there you have it. One little walk across the bridge. And Azazas is going to even this series up at 1 game apiece.
Awesome. So get your GGs in chat for Azazas. He finishes in first place with an official SRL time of 1 hour and 35 minutes even.
GG's to Azaz. A very clean race all around. And Azaz, like I said, evening this match. One game apiece, as Azazas is joining us here in commentary right now. Azazas, congratulations on this win, staying alive in this match.
Hey, thank you. This was a really confusing seed overall.
It really was. It opened up super early and just kind of gave you a, well, what do you want to do? Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that is too.
Yeah, most of the seed I was just kind of puzzled. I mean, like, where could the flute be? I mean, I knew it could be behind a fire or behind a dark room. I eventually knew it couldn't be behind myths, but it still was pretty much in the last place it could have been for me.
Yeah, it was interesting. The way you routed it out in the early game, if the hammer had not been in Older, I thought you might actually try those fake flipper checks pretty early when you got your flute a lot earlier in the seed. Who knows what happened if that the way it worked out.
Yeah, probably, because we did have quite a bit of money going into that point, so even Sora was viable at the beginning. But yeah, just I got the hammer and decided, well, better go to the Dark World right away.
Yeah, you and Xyrak are pretty much running in each other's footsteps for the first hour or so of this race. With just a little bit of a split up once you made the decision to dive into Eastern and Pod and got your mitts, where Xyrak did dungeons that he could complete. what was your thought process going into that sort of decision breakpoint where you had a swamp on the table and you had some other things on the table, and you decided to make a play over in that area?
Yeah, as I said, I was just chasing the flute. So I pretty much tried to go to locations with high item density, which could have the flute. That was just my thought process. Because really, it was so confused. Like, it was pretty, say, uncomfortable about being so out of logic, and the flute would just put everything back together in its place.
Yeah, for sure. With Fire Rod being where it was, kind of locked in behind that flute, as well as unlocking some various other things for you, it definitely is got to be a little frustrating when you're trying to put things back together and running out of locations that could solve that logic for you. Pretty clean run from you. I don't know if you ever felt like you were behind in this race or anything, but really, really well executed across the board from you.
I couldn't know. I had no idea because, I mean, I know Xyrak fake flipper at the beginning in order to get that early flute, but I mean, this seed just was so open to so many routing options, so many sequence breaking options that I honestly couldn't know whatsoever if I was ahead or was behind. And the margin between both of us.
Yeah, there were a ton of options for both of you guys during this race. Looking forward to game 3, we're going to have Xyrak making another setting change. Do you have any idea what he's going to do, or do we wait for him to come on here and hopefully just a little bit to get this thing finished out? But do you hope it goes back to open, or if you hope that he makes some other changes?
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea on that as well, but he kinda needs to decide somewhat quickly because game 3 is tomorrow same time.
Yeah, for those of you watching tomorrow at 2:20 p.m. Eastern, 11:20 Pacific, and 6:20 Central European time. Game 3 of this set. We're moving on to the round of 32. You got to be feeling pretty confident going into that race.
Well, I mean, if both these races, I mean, they really serve to show how even we are. Like pretty much the entire competitor roster right now is pretty even. But yeah, anything can happen tomorrow. I'd say it's a 50-50 for who moves on and who gets eliminated.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on Xyrak's screen, we have a very unfortunate situation here. Is Xyrak has managed to despawn Ganon's tower.
Wait, how did that happen? Because Moldorm 2 was still there.
Yeah, that's a quadrant glitch, if I'm not mistaken. Just if you spin in the Moldorm battle, if you do a spin attack and get knocked in a certain way, like I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it has to do with how you get knocked after a spin attack in Moldorm's fight. It is like a really, really small chance of happening, of course.
Got it. Okay. Only hammer strats for Moldorm 2 from now on.
I mean, honestly, I've been running this game for over 2 years and it's never happened to me. So
yeah, that's the first time I've seen it happen. Better now than in a race that was not already decided, but Xyrak has chosen to forfeit rather than climb up Ganon's tower again, and Xyrak will be joining us here in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that was I'm as you said, I'm really happy that was not going to be a super close race, because that would have been a heartbreaking way for it to end.
And joining us right now is Xyrak. Xyrak, GG. Very unfortunate there at the end with despawning Ganon's tower.
Yep. That was extra treat for everybody. First time it's ever happened to me where I wasn't messing around and actually trying to do it. So there you go.
Yeah, like I just said, it's better that happens now in a race that's already decided and not in one that where that is the deciding factor. But good run from you. It's very wide open seat, a lot of different decision points for you. But it ended up that you and Azazas were pretty much running in each other's footsteps for a good portion of this race. What was your thoughts going into it, and as the seed was going on, as you had a big sequence break that led to the fire rod, and knowing that it was a very large sequence break with the lamp up in Death Mountain?
Yeah, I felt really good during the race with most of my decisions. The only thing that was sort of a 50-50 was whether I wanted to do Mire area or Dark Death Mountain first, and I picked wrong. Doing Mire area first would have saved me a trip up Death Mountain, but other than that, I don't really have too many complaints about that. I definitely didn't feel that far behind, like finishing the seed when, Azaz's finishing while I was on my way to Ice Armos, basically. Like, I certainly felt like it was going to be close.
Yeah, it was close most of the way throughout. Though the one big decision break between the two of you was Azaz's choosing to dive into the pod in eastern area while you were avoiding that area a little bit more, and Azaz's finding the Titan's mitts well before you did.
Yeah, which is funny because I'm usually the guy that doesn't do crystals when they're available to you like as soon as possible a lot of the time. So it's kind of funny that worked out that way this time. But I'm more averse to going to the eastern/pod area without a bow now that there are basically two of them in the pool. I'm much more averse to going there without a bow. And unfortunately for this seed, I guess that meant mitts came late for me.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate break of this seed. But the good news is that you're not eliminated. You've got another race. Game 3 is tomorrow at 2:20 Eastern. Have you given thoughts as to what you want to choose for the race mode for that game?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just pull it back to regular open.
All right.
Cool. All right. So you guys heard it. We're gonna have game 3 here tomorrow, same time. And the settings are just gonna be our regular old starting settings.
Yeah, kind of sad about it because standard is kind of my jam, but I mean, Charlie's got to pick. He's got to pick what could give him an advantage, of course.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously, is a great player. His execution's at a very high level when he's playing well. So it's a bit of a gamble, quote unquote, I guess. But I've done a lot of swordless practice in my day, so I'm totally fine running around without a weapon and leaving the swords towards the end of the seed. So we'll see if it matters.
Yeah, I think at this point in the tournament, there really isn't a huge execution gap between a lot of the runners. So it's gonna come down to routing and decision making and a little bit of luck tomorrow. Good luck to both of you. Any other observations? Any thoughts about the run?
No. Like I said, it was very open. I'm totally happy with most of my decisions. Too bad they didn't quite work out well enough. GG is us. Good race.
Yeah, same to you, GG. And yeah, I'm happy that your GT dismount just happened on a race that was already decided.
Yes, yes, I am too.
Yeah, it was very entertaining from us, and I'm sure our fans out here are entertained. Once again, our race, game 3 in this set is going to be tomorrow at 2:20 Eastern. We'll let you know if it's a restream as soon as we know. But I'll let Azazas and Xyrak, I'll let both of you guys get ready, get in the right mindset for game 3 tomorrow.
Great, thanks for covering the race, everybody. Cheers.
Yep. Thanks for the stream.
Awesome. If you guys have not quite gotten your rando fix yet, we do have 2 more races coming up today. We have a race starting in about 12 minutes right now on Speed Gaming 6. It's going to be Trinex versus Hitsion 1337. That is a game 3, I believe. So definitely tune into that one. And starting an hour after that, 5:20 Eastern, we have Relkin versus Bonta, and that one's going to be on Speed Gaming 3. That is game 1 of their series. We also have a boatload of races tomorrow, I believe. Those are starting at 1:20 and headed up potentially up until 5:20 as well. So definitely stay tuned. Keep an eye on that schedule. Give a follow to this channel and ALTTP Randomizer 1 through 4, I believe, as well as Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 2 through 6. You can stay tuned on this tournament and on other randomizer tournaments, as well as other tournaments just kind of going around in the gaming community. I believe that's all for me. The only thing I further have to say is may your seeds be relatively kind, at the very least.